Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, a favorite space for all things fashion. I'm so ecstatic to have you here once again. Yes, it has been often lately that most of my new clients gave me warnings ahead regarding the neck area, telling me to make sure it doesn't come out wide or tight. That's a pointer to me that many tailors still struggle to draft an accurate neck size. However, that is why I have decided to drop this tutorial on how to arrive at an accurate or desired neck size without guessing, with a formula that can be used interchangeably for all neck sizes between neck size 9.5 to 21 inches, being the highest that I've ever worked with. A very quick one, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do well to subscribe, because soonest we will be dropping our pant tutorial series, which I would not want you to miss any of the series, as we have a lot packaged in this series. Tutorials on part measurement parameters, controversial issues on drafting patterns, formula with no side effects, cuttings, sewing processes, ready-made finishings and ironing, and many more will be discussed. We will leave no stone unturned, so turn on the notification bell that you can be notified whenever we drop tutorials for this purpose. Without further ado, let's get started. Now, we have the neck sizes from neck 9.5 to 21 inches. From 9.5 to 20. Why I made this is because I have not gone beyond 21 inches for many clients. So the highest I've done, or the highest I've taken as a customer neck size, is 21 inches. So I'll stop by these inches. So now I want you to understand that when you are dealing with customer's neck size, specifically for kaftan, native wears, senator wears, and the likes, now you should understand that when you're taking your neck size measurement, something of this form, you will have from here to this side, you have the width. Let me name this the width, and you also have the length. So the length, this is what I mean by the length, and for the width, this is what I mean by the width. So, but for the purpose of this class, I have made it simple that from experience, to get a perfect neck size, these are the widths. I've given the width, and these widths are constant. They are constant. That means anything constant means it is not changing. It must maintain the figures here. The constant, that means from 9 inches to 11 inches, the acceptable width that you can use is 1.5, and from 11.5 to 13, the acceptable width you can use 1 3/4. From 13.5 to 15, you have 2 inches. 15.5 to 17, you have 2 1/4, and 17.5 to 19 inches, you have 2.5, and 19.5 to 21 inches, you have 2 3/4. So mind that it must remain the same. This is constant. So now let's start. I will probably advise you to write this somewhere, because we'll be needing them when we start working with it. So now, constant, since our width has been given to us, that is constant. So now let us improvise, or probably solve our length that will determine the perfect neck size. Don't forget, this is the formula we'll be using. Now the width is, so we start from neck 9.5, neck 10, (20.5), and lastly neck 21 inches. Now don't forget that we already have their constant widths. We are picking, we have 4 intervals. From 9.5 to 11, we have 1.5. From 11.5 to 13, we have 1 3/4. From 13.5 to 15, we have 2 inches. From 15.5 to 17, we have 2 1/4, and from 17.5 to 19, we have 2.5, and from 19.5 to 21, we have 2. Then we have 2 3/4. From 19.5 to 21, we have 2 3/4. So now let's start. Now I will make my 17 inches the starting point. From 15.5 to 17 inches, we'll be using a constant width of 2 1/4, and this is the next size formula I'll be using for size 17. 2 1/4 inches by 4 1/4. Take note. And that will be our midpoint, and that is how we'll be laying down all that we have here. So 2 1/4 by 4 1/4. Now if that is the case, so you can grab that out on your fabric and measure, and you discover it to give you exactly 17 inches. So we have 2 1/4 by 4 1/4. Now let's get the rest. Take note, we have an interval of half inch. That means from 17 to 17 and a half, we have an interval of half inch. From 17 and a half to 8 inches, we have an interval of half inch. The same thing applicable to all that we have here. They all have an interval of half inch. So now, anytime there will be an increase in the neck size with an half inch, either of these two, or let me, if since I've made it constant, so that means what you have here as the length, don't forget our 2 1/4 here is the constant width that will be given. That's our foundation. So now it is only the length that will be changing. It is only the length that will be changing. So now if it will increase from 17 inches to 17 and a half inches, your length will increase by 1/4 to get your perfect neck size. It will increase by 1/4. So now don't forget that it ends on 2 1/4. Now we are getting our 17 and a half. Don't forget that the constant width for 17 and a half is 2 and a half. 2 and a half. So that means if it's going to increase from 17 inches to 17 and a half, which is an half inch, either of these two must increase by 1/4. Now our length will not increase here simply because we are forced to move to our constant width of 2 and a half. Don't forget that 2 and a half here serve as a constant width for 17 and a half neck size to 19 inches. So we have no choice than to move to 2 and a half. So because now it has increased by 1/4 here, then we cannot change this. It must remain the same for 1/4. Because don't forget, if it increases by half, either of the two must increase by 1/4. When it increases by 1/4, then we can have our exact size formula. So now we have the grace to keep repeating our 2 and a half because they fall in between the same group. That means from 17 and a half here to 19 inches, we have the grace to use our 2 and a half, 2 and a half, and 2 and a half. So now to increase from 17 and a half to 8 inches, this must increase by 1/4. So now for size 18, it will be 2 and a half by 4 and a half. So for size 18 and a half, it will be 2 and a half. Don't forget this, it increases by 1/4 by 4 3/4 because 1/4 plus half will give us 3/4. And for size 19 to be 2 and a half by 5 inches. That is for 19. So now we are moving to 19 and a half to 21. Don't forget this bracket line, this group have its own constant width. And the constant width here that we'll be working with is 2 3/4. From 19 and a half, we have 2 3/4. Now, because either of the two must increase by 1/4 if we are moving from one neck size to the other side, which increase by half inch. So that means now we are forced to use our 2 3/4 because that is the constant width bracket of this neck size that we have here. So now, because this has increased by 1/4, then this will remain the same by 5. That's 2 3/4 by 5 inches. That is for the neck size. So now for 20, we are already on the same group, so we can use our constant width, which is 2 3/4 here, 2 3/4, and lastly 2 3/4. Now since we are already on the same line, this is not changing, so that the change that will occur will now be on the length. So that will be 2 3/4 by 5 1/4. It has increased by half by 5 1/4. Now because it is increased, it is moving from 20 inches to 20 and a half inches for the next size. It will be 2 3/4 by 5 and a half because 1/4 will increase by this, and lastly it will be 2 3/4 by 5 3/4. So that makes the size of 21 inches. Now let's use this method to get all that we have backward. Now with from 15 and a half to 17 inches is 2 1/4. We are still using our 2 1/4 from next size of 15 inches to 17 inches. We are still using our 2 1/4, so we can take our constant width upward. 2 1/4, 2 1/4, and 2 1/4, so that we will not be misled. So that means from neck size 15, we have 13 and a half to neck size 15. 13 and a half to neck size 15. That means we have 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches, and 2 inches. So now let's go backward. Now if from 17 it is decreasing to 16 and a half, so that means our length here will decrease by 1/4. So now we have 2 1/4 by 4 inches. That is for neck size 16 and a half. Now moving to size 16, it will as well reduce by 1/4 because I said either of the two must reduce by 1/4.
because now we are having decrease in our neck size. So it will be 2 1/4 by, if 1/4 is deducted from 4 inches, we will have 3 3/4, and here to be 2 1/4 by 3 1/2. It will reduce by 1/4. So now we cannot reduce, because it is moving now from 15 1/2 inches to 15 inches. We cannot reduce from 3 1/2 to 3 inches, simply because now this has been forced, this our width has been forced to decrease by 2 because of our constant width that we started with from the beginning. So that means here we'll be using 2 inches. This is already deducted, so we cannot deduct the length again. So we repeat our 3 1/2 here, because we already have 2 inches. So don't forget that I said either of these two must increase by 1/4 if there is a reduction in the neck size, and either of the two must also increase by 1/4 if there is an increase in the neck size. So now we have 2 by 3 1/2. Now we have 14 1/2. We are still dealing with our 2 inches. So here we have it constant here. It is only the length that will be changing. So now it will be 2 inches by, from 3 1/2. If 1/4 is deducted from 3 1/2, we have 3 1/4. And here for size 14, it will be 2 by 3 inches. When 1/4 is deducted, is removed, then you have 2 inches. So from 13 1/2 here will be 2 by 2 3/4 when 1/4 is deducted from 3. So that is how to get a perfect neck size, so that it will not be too wide and it will not be too tight. Now 13 inches, our constant width from 11 1/2 to 13 inches is 1 3/4. 1 3/4. So we have it constant: 1 3/4, 1 3/4, 1 3/4, and 1 3/4. Now we would have reduced this our 2 3/4 length to 2 1/2, but because now we have been forced to reduce this from 2 inches to 1 3/4 inches because of the constant width bracket from size 11 1/2 to size 13. So now we will have to repeat our 2 3/4 here. Don't forget, it is only either of the two that must be decreased, not both at the same time. Either. That means if one reduces, the other must not reduce. If the other reduces, the second one should not reduce. So now we have 1 3/4 by 2 3/4 repeated, because this has been forced to reduce by the constant width here. So now, since our constant width is not changing from neck 13 to 11 1/2 inches, so we have the grace to now keep reducing. So from 2 3/4 here, because we are moving to 12 1/2, it will reduce by 1/4. That means we'll be having 2 1/2. So now, with all of these neck size formula, please, you can zoom it, let them see. With all of these neck size formula, you can try it out at your own what's it called, up in the comment section, if it is accurate or not. So using this neck size formula will guide you on how to get a perfect neck size of your,
prevent or avoid the issues of customer complaining of neck being too wide or too small. Now that is the case. Now before I end this class, before we end this class, there's something I would love to add to this. So if you are making use of this neck size formula, you agree with me that this is perfect and accurate, fine. So when drafting on your kaftan, let me give you a typical example or an image of a kaftan. So when it is drafted, we have unfold, we have something at
our typical kaftan. This is our armhole area. We have the side here. So now this is the midpoint, right? So now when you want to draft it out, so that means we have to bend this way from this point, pointed this way. Now it is from this point to this point that you have your length and you have your width around this side. You measure your width here. So that means from here to here you have your length, and from here to this place we have your width. So now, for example, if let's say we are having our neck size 17 and it's 2 1/4 by 4 1/4. So now let's assume what we have from here to here is 2 1/4. So that means drafted down to this part, let's say from here to here 2 1/4, and our length is 4 1/4. So don't forget, this will have to be chopped off. We chop this off this way. So now we have this cut out. Now if you want to shape it out, start make a curve around this part, and we have to make another curve around this part. So when you take your measurement round, you get your neck size. Is that taken? Now there's something I want to add to this. the moment you use your 2 1/4 by 4 1/4, please add just 1/8 to this side. Increase this side by 1/8. And while you are increasing this, don't forget, this is the normal size of your neck formula that you're using. So, but you have to increase it by 1/8. Reason being that by the time you are, it serves as a piping allowance, because when you pipe round, it becomes smaller by 1/8. So as to get your exact neck size 17, you just increase it a bit by 1 or 2 values from this video. Please do well to like, share and subscribe, and turn on notification bell so you don't miss out on my latest content.